Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to The Buried Life. I'm Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, and today what we're going to end up talking about is this cool and interesting topic, the Bondtech INDX multi-head system that will be a game changer. This is going to be big. Considering all the things that we've seen in 3D printing, and in the past, recently we've seen Bamboo and their H2D come out with a dual extruder system. And though you lost a little bit of size, everybody wanted a little bit bigger printer, basically a large X1C, but they threw in a slightly smaller build area and then two extruders, which helps minimize the amount of poo, so you can do multicolor prints. But the problem is with that is that you can't use their AMS to do two different colors at the. Yeah, there are some problems, but it is a great innovation, so I will give it that. Personally, I was gonna hold off and get the H2D, but then Bamboo lied about a number of things. One, about, they lied about the log files and a bunch of information. They said, oh no, we'll never send that and collect that data or information. And then Grant from 3D Musketeers and some other people found out and got into the log files and actually found out that they were, and that they blatantly lied. Bamboo blatantly lied. So that put a bad taste in my mouth. I don't know about you, but I'm just not that type of person. And then when they said that they're locking down their systems, which for the average person, it's not going to make a bit of difference. But when you claim it is for, it's for the security of the people, and it's like, well, now you have to get online to be able to use our system because we're locking down because of your safety and security. In case you haven't noticed, I'm going on a little bit of rant against Bamboo, who have great machines and puts out great products. I'm not denying that at all. I mean, they do some awesome stuff. The problem I have is when you lie to people and you say, oh, this is for safety and security, for your best interest at heart. It's kind of like saying, we don't want you to get wet, but we're going to require you to go out into the rain. And it just doesn't make sense, because before their system lockdown, safety and security, they made it sound like there was hordes of people that were going to be, hacking all types of 3D printers and printing benchies unbeknownst to you during the middle of the night, and filament just everywhere. The chaos, the cats and dogs living together. We just didn't see that. So it didn't jive. And of course they lied about that, and then they tried to, just kind of gaslight everybody, and that just put another bad taste in my mouth. So anyway, I'm glad I didn't get the Bamboo H2D, because they also threw in, you could get a laser, you could get a cutter, a leather cutter and paper cutter thing, and a pen plotter. Laser engravers just create so much smoke and debris. It's not good for a 3D printer. I'm just saying. Nobody asked for it, so I'm not sure. I think somebody watched X-Tool and wanted to do that. But getting back to what we're talking about, Bondtech INDX, the Index multi-head system, is going to be the big game changer. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this commercial that Bondtech has put out, and when I saw it, I was like, whoa, this is going to be big. Because when we think about multi-head systems, of course, we think about Prusa XL. That's the one that pops up in my mind first. Of course, if you go back in time, I think Creality had a two dual head extruder head system, and a couple other companies, but they just didn't grab on. It didn't just hook people in and become a thing until, people recently didn't want to poop as much. So let's get right into it, and we'll take a look at this, and let's start off. Now, this is the first commercial that they ended up having. This was 1 month ago.
Empower your filament 3D printer. Fast procedures, wireless, and contactless tools. Near zero waste. Cost effective. Self-adjusting dual drive technology for different colors and materials. Set yourself free and focus on your creations. Bondtech INDX. Multiple technologies, countless ways to create.
Ding. Yeah, that looks awesome. And if we kind of go back here, we can glean some information on this. And the first thing that we end up, let's just see, we see here 1, 2, 3, 4. On the active tool head itself, the one that is printing. So you're talking about maybe 10. Well, you don't have an empty slot. So you got nine different colors of filament there. We're talking zero filament waste. We're talking about induction heating of the filament, which is contactless, which should help in the longevity as long as that system, stays up and running. But a lot less wear and tear, minimal weight for the tool head itself, which means you can go faster, less wear and tear on the motors and so on and so forth. It just, lighter is better. And if it is indeed something that can do what it says, that is going to be a huge change when it comes to 3D printing. So if we zoom in here, we can see that we've got a sock there. There's the nozzle. That might be a sock that goes around that, but then again, maybe, I don't know, that one's kind of chewed up, so I'm going to kind of say it's not ceramic. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say, just based off of these pictures here, because that one looks really clean. That one looks okay. That one looks chewed up. That one's the worst of them so far. So I'm just going to go out and say, and of course these are all prototype items probably, but I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say this is probably a silicone sock of some type, but then it goes here and then it connects up there and it looks like it connects there. So I'm not sure. Maybe it is silicone, maybe it's attached to the back. Just kind of an interesting little setup. We can see the filament is running up and running down, and then you've got your little fins for cooling or whatever. But yeah, the induction heating, you don't have to have this huge bulky extruder head with the heat thing and the hotness that we have now. This makes that look like the Stone Age. And as small as these things are, this is going to be huge. I mean, pardon the pun, but I mean, that is really going to be huge, because when you compare something like the H2D from Bamboo, you're talking something that's like this. You could probably fit 3 of these things in the space, maybe even, I'd probably say 3 of those things in the space for the head, the dual extruder head of the Bamboo H2D. And some other interesting things that we can look up here. Of course, we've got the Bowden tubes. You got the little connectors there. Everything's coming in straight, which is great. With the K2 Plus, they had problems with the Bowden tube coming in to the top of the extruder, and it was often bent over and causing problems with that connector. And of course, they had to come out with some fixes. People made little adaptations for that. But on this, it looks like they know what they're doing. This flat part here looks like maybe, I don't know, that's going to be kind of interesting. Maybe that's a plastic to run over that loop to go to that extruder, that contactless extruder, which is wild. And there we can see the extruder, how it changes, it pulls out, and yep, heating. Oh, look at how nice that is. How fast. That is going to be awesome. Oh, look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wow. Could you imagine that? 9 different colors? Nope. Don't want to answer. Okay. My daughter's calling. She's going to be visiting. So anyway, could you imagine having 9 different colors available? That is going to be huge. Now, on the other side of the coin, the other thing we need to take a look at and consider is that you're going to need probably some type of AMS, a multi-material system or whatever, to have, 9, 10 different rolls of filament Somebody needs to get working on that. So Bondtech, maybe they're working on it. I don't know. Haven't heard anything about that. But this just looks like it's going to be awesome. And if you have, even if you just have to set up, PLA and just do a little rack and make it yourself, I mean, that is going to be huge. But this is going to get even better, because when you hear about the price, that's just going to blow people out of the water. So let's continue on with this. We can see we got some gears, different colors. Looks pretty clean, very small. I think we're going to get a lot of speed and good acceleration for this. And it just, man, that, the 2 posts to come in to where it connects, I'm assuming that there's going to be a magnet, of some type. And we've got a second, a second video that popped up, and this one just came out a day ago. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look at this and get excited. Take my money, you bet.
Why is Bondtech INDX so disruptive? The INDX toolhead introduces an open front bay to load and unload the tool, simplifying switching filaments. The dynamic extruder self-adjusts to the optimal pre-tension required to print any material at any requested volumetric flow and under any 3D printing conditions.
Ooh.
INDX tools use small heat dissipators with simple nozzles, the conduits where plastic is melted. There is no heater, thermistor, or heat block on these tools.
Awesome.
The INDX Smart Toolhead uses induction to heat up the nozzles with no contact, and reads their temperature without touch. The wireless tools are therefore easy to pick and drop.
That is awesome.
The INDX nozzles broke the mold and are like none other before. Their low thermal mass minimizes inertia and transfers all heating power directly to melting plastic.
That's nice.
INDX takes around 12 seconds to complete a tool change and even less to reach printing temperature. And it's near wasteless in so many ways. Saves on filament. There's no filament pruning, cutting, or pooping. Saves on tool heads. Only one tool head is required, the Smart Tool Head. Saves on adding tools. Extra materials, nozzles, or colors run on affordable, thin, passive tools. Saves on energy too. INDX is fast to heat up and requires no preheating. With INDX, tool changers will be simple, flexible, and affordable. A tool made by creators for all 3D printing creators out there. Bondtech INDX. Multiple technologies, countless ways to create.
Gotta love the little ding at the end. That's self-adjusting. When it talks about self-adjusting, dual drive technology of using any type of material, TPU, esoteric filaments, ABS, AB, CF, GF, whatever, all of that stuff, PLA, obviously. What you're going to end up having is, and saying that it can do all materials, now we're looking at a system that can not only do PLA, but it could be in a open gantry type system, or it can be an enclosed system. So if you have something like the Ender 5 Max or some kind of open framed type of machine, boom, you would be able to use that with your PLA and whatever you could get away with. If you have something like the K2 Plus or a KD4 Max or similar system, you could probably put this thing, or Voron, definitely a Voron, you could use this on. But having that self-adjusting dual drive technology, that's going to be interesting, because that makes me wonder if Bondtech has profiles for different types of filaments, and is it just kind of like a generic profile for TPU and PLA or ABS and ASA and all of those other things, and then you're going to have to dial in those even further. Of course, you should be doing that anyway, dialing in your filament for your machine, for your location, for your circumstances. That might take a little while, but once it's done, it's done. and you save that profile. And most people that I know who are into 3D printing and that I've watched and talked with and stuff like that, they narrow down their niche of this is the filament that I use and that's all I ever use, and this is what I do, this is what I sell, this is the hobbies, whatever it is. Outside of that, it's almost like resin printing. Once you get your material dialed in and that's all you do, you're good. You're golden. So, if it takes, a couple of hours to get a finely tuned profile for that filament, I don't think this self-adjusting it's not going to be a problem, because once you've done that, it's done. So that looks pretty amazing on that itself right there. Let's see what else we can glean from this. Oh, that just looks so sweet. How it kind of just goes in, so there's some type of active tension system. Ooh, that's kind of interesting. Ooh, let's go back. Sorry, I got excited about that. So we can see those wheels. And then I'm wondering if that right there, because your nozzle is right there, right in the middle of that thing there, but that makes me wonder if it has adjustable height. Of course, if you're running clipper and things like that, obviously they take that into account. But is it actively doing your Z height? Coil system. The coil system is going to be huge. Oh, look at how nice that is. That is so nice and clean. And if it takes 12 seconds, and again, you don't have to worry about, purging and pooping and pooping and purging and pooping. Yeah, that is going to be huge. And with a coil system like this, where it's touchless heating, we're getting away from these big, huge monstrosities that have to heat up. How many times when you start a print that you have to wait for your nozzle to heat up, and you're just sitting back and you're going like, okay, and you're seeing the temp go up and up and up, and then boom, this is going to save time. Same thing with the filament changes. You're going to be saving time on that as well. So it continues on. And the interesting that we end up seeing is that you've got the two posts on the back, and that marries up to those holes there. We can actually see that's 3D printed, which isn't a big deal. I'm assuming that there's magnets in there and probably on the other side to attach to. Thin wall nozzles, low mass, again, less mass, and I think that's a magnet right there. So when it goes in there and it drops that off, boom, it just snaps right in. And that's the little button. I'm wondering if that has to do with your getting your Z height on there. But you can see the nozzle. I mean, the nozzle's right there. That just looks so crisp and clean. And if we take a look at that, let me see, do I got that on HD as high as it'll go? Yep, that's as high as it'll go. Super fast tool changes, heat ups. They say it's going to take about 12 seconds, which is pretty good. Did you notice that? How it's got that little bit of play? A little bit of, watch this. It's actually going to bend forward. See that? Wow, that is going to be nice. Near wasteless in so many ways. Saves on filament. That is save on tool head changes. This is indeed going to be a game changer. Let's back that up a little bit and see if we can go a little bit slower. But this is going to be playback speed. Let's go 0.25 and see what happens. So yeah, it looks like there's maybe two magnets in there or something like that, but it's going to go. Oh, that is just so nice. The amount of weight loss on this is going to be huge, because then that can translate over directly to speed. And like we ended up saying, I think, we have the Bowden tubes there, and I think that looks like that could be some type of plastic, some type of printed material. It could be, I'm going to say maybe even some type of metal. possibly. I don't know. That looks like that was printed. But either way, you're going to have some active tension on that, but it doesn't seem to be causing a problem with anything. And the results that you're getting is going to be awesome for multi-printer use, multi-filament print use. So this is definitely going to be something that is going to be huge. So, oh, just look how sweet that is, crisp and clean. And, you know, if we even zoom into this, what we can end up seeing, I mean, tiny, tiny little artifacts there, but the rest of it, we don't see any stringing. We don't get the weird things on the lines. Yeah, I think this is going to be a game changer. Oh, let's get back to that. Where was it? There's a real good shot of that. So what we can end up seeing is we got a little bit of stepping there, maybe a little bit there, but for the most part, that is super clean. That is a really nice print right there. So yeah, it's going to get to the place of where this is going to be the next big thing. The question that remains that everybody should be asking is what company is going to adopt this? And is Bondtech going to just offer this as an upgrade kit and you can just put it on whatever you want? I don't think you could put it on something like the H2D. They have their own lockdown system with Bamboo, so I would just throw Bamboo out of the mix unless you have a P1P or a P1S and you totally flash everything and you do your own little thing, kind of like a Voron, Frankenstein type thing. But definitely Vorons. You could see how this would work. It would definitely work with Core XY. I don't see this working with bed slingers. Initially, I mean, I don't know. Of course, anything is basically, if you have the mechanical parts there, then all it comes down to software and code and things like that. So there's a possibility of that. But since everybody's going away from bed slingers and everybody's going to Core XY because we get faster speeds, we get better quality, more accuracy, we get less momentum and problems in that regard. And we're going to be we're going to be getting some speed, more speed out of this thing, out of the INDX DX from Bondtech, then I really think this is going to be the next big thing, this Bondtech thing. Matter of fact, let me just do this because I want to get a picture of this. And we'll just throw this up on here because we're going to talk about this a little bit. So yeah, this is going to be big. I think this is going to be really big. The question is, what company is going to pick this up, and is Bondtech going to marry up with a company? That is something very interesting, because if a company goes in with Bondtech and says, "Hey, we want to do a deal. Let's talk and see how this works out." This could be huge. So if a company actually marries up with Bondtech and they put out a machine, say Voron, and they do their little deal together, you could have a Voron with 9-10 tool heads. And from other information that I gleaned on the interwebs, finding out that each it's like $35 for the little head itself, and then the other thing is, I mean, it's just a ridiculously low priced system per head. And it's going to put Prusa XL, it's going to put the Bamboo H2D. They're going to be scrambling for cover because of what these people are doing at Bondtech with this INDX thing that they have coming out. If they make kits for Creality K2 Plus, the Ender 5 Max, for some of these big Core XY machines, or even smaller Core XY machines, you're going to have Centauri Carbon, you're going to have your Prusa XL. And imagine that. Taking your Prusa Core 1, not the XL. Well, you could take the XL, but if you did that, then you already paid for it. Then why would you refit it with these? I don't know. But you kind of get the point that I'm looking at. You could take pretty much almost any machine and retrofit and upgrade it to this system here, and you're going to get way more mileage than anything else that is out there currently. So yeah, I'm keeping a huge eye out on this, because this is going to be the next big thing. Now, if you're just doing stuff like me, I've got the Crowley K2 Plus with the CFS, which is currently down because the buffer system is down. So I'm waiting on that part to come in, but I'm still printing on the spool side. But something like this is entirely doable, and the prices that have been quoted for this here is going to make that, people want a multi-head system. You had the Prusa XL, and that is just monumentally expensive, $5,000-$6,000 for a full setup, the whole 9 yards. This is going to bring that down even more. And of course, competition has brought this to us, capitalism and competition, and trying to bring and make a better mousetrap to market is what allows this to happen, and allows us to enjoy the fruits of those labors to get a cheaper machine with more capabilities. So yeah, this is going to be huge. There was a show that was done that showed this in action, and it was on a small little machine, but still very, very impressive. I think it was actually a Sovol Zero, if I wasn't mistaken. If I am, put it in the comments section. I'm not putting money on it, but it was. I think it was a Sovol boron system. What was it, boron Zero or something, whatever it was? But very, very impressive. And the small footprint that these print heads have, or these extruders, these coil extruders, is just incredible. So I think this is really going to be the next big thing. And if you're into multicolor printing or multi-material printing, and that's where you make your money, this is going to be a game changer. If you're just doing, one or two different types, it's not going to be that big of a deal. There's a lot of people that just print PLA or one certain or a couple certain substances, and that's it. This wouldn't be a real big deal. But again, if it's out there, yeah, I'm going to keep my eye out on this and see if this is going to be something that would go beautifully with Voron. Oh, that would be beautiful. And the under 5 max, that would be nice too. But, if you're going to go something like this, you might as well go for the whole kit and caboodle. So have an enclosed system with a chamber heater that would allow you to do multiple prints or multiple filaments, high heat filaments and stuff like that. But then you have all of those things, so your enclosure would be pretty big. It would kind of like the Prusa XL and their ugly enclosure that just makes no sense whatsoever. I don't know what they were thinking when they made that, but this could be big. But if you're doing PLA, boom, and the majority of people use PLA, this could be huge. Talked about multicolored prints and the amount of money that you're going to save on filament instead of pooping it out, like with all the systems we currently have, purging and pooping and pooping and purging. This thing is going to be big. So yeah, put it in the comment section down below on what you think about the Bondtech INDX, this system that is coming out, that little thing that we got there. How do you think this is going to revolutionize? And who's going to adopt it first? And is Bondtech, do they have a certain company in mind or a certain machine in mind that could be retrofitted and upgraded with this system? That's going to be very interesting. And how user-friendly is that going to be? It's one thing to say, well, we have this system and it does this, this, and this, and you can upgrade your current system. But for the majority of people out there, they're not electronically inclined or mechanically inclined to do such work. So it'll be interesting to see how this pops up. So the upgrade kit that they produce and how easy it is I think that'll be very important. Of course, I think Bondtech will do a great job with that. From what I've seen and read about the company, I think they're realizing that the more user-friendly it is and the easier it is, the more stuff you're going to sell. And something like this with a coilless contact heating unit, that is going to be really interesting. The other thing it makes me wonder is what type of nozzle is it going to use? Is it going to have like a volcano nozzle or their own proprietary? It kind of looks like it does. But even then, I don't think it's going to be something that's going to break the bank. And if you have a hardened steel nozzle on there, make that standard, boom, you will be set for success. And, have some spare parts on hand before you release this thing. And this could be indeed the game changer or a game changer when it comes to 3D printing. So, yeah, definitely keep an eye on this. And this looks hot. This looks really good. If, Bamboo, they should have left the laser engraving, plotting, leather cutting accessory. They should have let that go. They should have just focused on the H2D and the bigger build volume. I really wish they went to 350 or 400 cubed. And then maybe a few months down the road, build up the hype and say, hey, remember the H2D? We've got something even better for you. And then release the laser cutter. And then release the leather cutter and the pen plotter and all that stuff that, as far as I know, nobody's asked for that. So, I think maybe Bamboo went in the wrong direction with that because they were somebody was watching some videos of Xtool and they want to get into the Xtool game, which they probably could, but just that marrying up of a 3D printer with a laser engraver and all the soot and debris that comes from that, those two don't go together. That would be like milking a bull, and it's not going to end well. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Very interesting stuff. And that's going to be it for this video. I'm Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, currently an American expat here in Korea, and I'm doing 3D printing, resin, miniature painting stuff. All kinds of interesting things since I'm retired here. And if you want to leave a comment, do it in the comment section down below. That's what the box is for down below. And if you want to send me an email, there's my email address. And the only thing that I ask, please, is like and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that. But there are people who have done me a solid, and they have bought me coffee. And that's who these scrolling ticker and all these people here, they have bought me coffee, and I have much respect for them. And you can be one of them. But if you can't, I understand. Just like and subscribe. So anyway, if you got any information, send it to my email address. I absolutely answer every single email, even the crazy ones. And if you're into 3D printing, you're a little crazy too. So that means we're part of this big dysfunctional family, and let's just keep having fun. So with that being said, we're going to let you go, and we will see you on the next video. I've just finished up a print, and I got to work on some stuff. Peace. Yeah, I can't just rant and rave. We'll see you.